Yeah, we back. We back. Now today, man, we're going to be talking about a topic that I probably should have touched on a long time ago. We're going to talk about the culture of betrayal amongst black men. Now, it's been a few subscribers that's been wanting me to touch on this topic for a while. And what inspired today's video is two stories, two different things. Number one, obviously today is the anniversary of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. And also, we got headlines coming out of West Africa. Another assassination attempt upon the life of President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. You know, listen, like 4 months ago, I did another video entitled, take a look up on the screen, Failed Burkina Faso Coup Against Ibrahim Traore. Now, this has got to be, to my knowledge, at least the fourth or fifth assassination attempt, overthrow attempt against the youngest president in the world, Ibrahim Traore, in his early to mid 30s. Some people say it's been up to 7 attempts. I've heard some people say it's been 15 attempts, but all I know is it's been at least 4 to 5 attempts on his life so far. Each one has been crushed, and each time the perpetrators have been either killed or thrown in jail. So, the brother, he got to watch his back. But in today's video, we're going to talk about the culture of betrayal amongst black men, because as you can see by the headline, it said 4 soldiers arrested in a plot against Ibrahim Traore. And I've done at least 2 videos in the past few months where it was a similar story of President Ibrahim Traore having an attempt made on his life. But luckily, each time he was able to intervene and crush the internal rebellion. But now we're going to talk about, as black men, especially as a black man, if you're a leader, the reality of what you have to face. Because we talk about the West, we talk about the Europeans, we talk about the Arabs, but we also got to talk about the culture of betrayal amongst black men, because that is a very sobering reality in our economic and political situation. Now, let's get into it, man. Let's jump into the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. Rest in peace, Patrice Lumumba. Today, January 17th, unfortunately, the big homie lost his life on this day. And on this day, we celebrate the big homie. We give honor to the ancestor, veneration, admiration, and everything in between. Now, as you already know, Patrice Lumumba, legend in his time, legend in his day. We give honor to his name. Unfortunately, he was assassinated on January 17th, 1961. I believe he was the first head of state for Congo coming out of the colonial era, and due to the economic and political orientation of his administration, he made several enemies along the way. Many of his policies and his rhetoric made him a target for elimination, because Patrice Lumumba advocated for a strong centralized government, because during this time, as you already know, divide and conquer was the name of the game. So a strong centralized government was against the interests of the colonial powers, because they preferred the decentralized approach. If they can't get a deal done with one guy, then they could go around the back, talk to somebody else. So they were against the idea of a strong centralized government that especially stood on honor and principles and integrity. You know what I'm saying? The Europeans wasn't going for that. Another one of his political policies that made him a target for elimination was his desire to nationalize the resources of the country. And we already know the Europeans, who built the majority of their wealth off the back of the exploitation of foreign lands, they wasn't going for that shit either. You know what I'm saying? So you already know how that go. And of course, there were a variety of other reasons, but those were the main ones. And as always, they had to get the homie out the way. They had to get the big homie out the way, man. And usually when they get the big homies out the way, they usually use one of the black men inside his inner circle, that could infiltrate his team, infiltrate his organization. That's what I mean when I talk about the culture of betrayal amongst black men. Take a look up on the screen. Mobutu had met many of the young Congolese intellectuals who were challenging colonial rule. He became friendly with Patrice Lumumba and joined Lumumba's Congolese national movement. Mobutu eventually became Lumumba's personal aide. Several contemporaries indicate that Belgian intelligence had recruited Mobutu to be an informer to the government. Now, as somebody who's been studying the history of black men since I was 8 years old, a common theme that you'll notice is, for every single legendary black man you have, you're gonna have at least 2 or 3 informants in the mix. You're gonna have at least, 2 or 3, backstabbers in the mix, man. For every legendary black man we got at least 2 or 3 backstabbers. We got at least 2 or 3 turncoats ready to sell out the entire operation, man. That's what I mean when I talk about the culture of betrayal amongst black men. And that's something we really gonna have to get a handle on if we ever want to advance. For real. It's a reality, brothers. It's a reality. Because regardless of whatever the adversary might want to accomplish, he won't be able to carry out his plan if he does not have the consent or the cooperation of those within our inner circle. And that's a reality that we have to deal with. Now, another story we got to talk about is Marcus Garvey, the story of Marcus Garvey. Another chapter in the culture of betrayal amongst black men. Now, without wasting no time, let's get into it. Take a look up on the screen. Marcus Mosiah Garvey, a Jamaican-born immigrant, was an early 20th century African-American leader who was a founder and staunch proponent of the black nationalist movement in the aftermath of World War I. the FBI began investigating Garvey's activities, looking to deport him as an undesirable alien. In 1922, he was convicted on mail fraud in connection with some of his businesses and organizational activities. His sentence was later commuted by President Coolidge. In New York City alone, Marcus Garvey owned several buildings, owned a fleet of trucks, and had over 1,000 black people working in his businesses. Marcus Garvey's UNIA also operated the Phyllis Wheatley Hotel on 136th Street in New York City. Garvey also organized the African Legion, a group of uniformed men who would attend UNIA parades. A secret service was formed from Legion members, providing Garvey with intelligence about group members. The formation of the Legion further concerned the Bureau of Investigation, who sent their first full-time black agent, James Wormley Jones, to infiltrate the UNIA. Man, I'm telling you, man, the culture of betrayal amongst black men. Let's continue. But Marcus Garvey didn't just have a bunch of businesses, a bunch of grocery stores, a bunch of, big buildings and fleet of trucks and hotels and, Secret Service and the African Legion. He also had the Black Cross nurses. You know what I'm saying? Because if we got the soldiers, we gonna need the nurses. If we got the shooters, we gonna need the nurses, man. Let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. The Black Cross Nurses was an international organization of nurses which was founded in 1920 based upon the model of the Red Cross. The organization was the Women's Auxiliary of the UNIA and was established to provide health services and education to people of African descent. In 1919, Hoover hired the FBI's first black agent in order to infiltrate the UNIA. The agent, James Wormley Jones, was referred to as Code Number 800. One of Garvey's close confidants, Herbert Bullen, was a spy for the FBI known as Agent P-138. In August 1919, the Attorney General urged immigration officials to deport Garvey, although no government agency had found enough evidence for such an action. A year later, a new bureau informant began providing damaging information. Herbert Simeon Bullen, a Jamaican businessman in Harlem, became friendly with Garvey and made numerous reports referring to alleged anti-white sentiments uttered by Garvey and his men. Once J. Edgar Hoover took up the matter, the anti-Garvey drive went into high gear. As soon as Hoover became assistant to the Attorney General at age 24 in 1919, he focused on supposed radicals such as Garvey. That's why you can't trust niggas, man. Now listen, I love my brothers. Got love for my brothers, but I know I gotta watch y'all. I gotta watch y'all niggas, man. Now let's continue. In his new position, Hoover focused on Garvey ever more tightly, describing him as particularly active among the radical elements in New York in agitating the Negro movement. Unfortunately, however, he has not yet violated any federal law. Hoover ended his letter by claiming that Garvey's newspaper upheld the Soviet Russian rule. Yo, even 100 years ago, they've been saying the same shit. Oh, the Russians. Man, listen, shut that shit up, nigga. Let's continue. Hoover's plan to remove Garvey began to take shape. His investigation switched to searching for possible criminal action rather than seditious behavior. One possibility was mail fraud. Now, listen, they couldn't get Garvey on, any type of treasonous activity because he wasn't really doing nothing wrong. He was just a black man starting businesses, employing his people, loving his women, loving his brothers, hiring his people, circulating the money, circulating the dollar, keeping it inside the family. He wasn't doing nothing wrong. But due to the fact that these actions were deemed as adversarial to the economic interests of the United States domestically and as well as internationally, they had to shut that shit down. And as we already know, Garvey was arrested by federal agents and deported from the United States, and he died in exile. Big up to Marcus Garvey. Now, next up on the list, we got Thomas Sankara. Big up Thomas Sankara. Another legendary black man that was eliminated due to the machinations of our enemies, both foreign and domestic. Take a look up on the screen. On the 15th of October 1987, Thomas Sankara was killed by an armed group with 12 other officials in the coup d'etat, organized by his former colleague, Blaise Compaoré. When accounting for his overthrow, Compaoré stated that Sankara jeopardized foreign relations with former colonial power France and neighboring Ivory Coast, and accused his former comrade of plotting to assassinate opponents. Now, take a look up on the screen. You see Thomas Sankara with Blaise Compaoré in these photos. The culture of betrayal amongst black men. Goddamn, you know what I'm saying? Goddamn, man. Some real shit, man. We gotta talk about that shit, bro. The culture of betrayal amongst black men. We gotta teach these lessons to our young boys when they're like 10 years old. We gotta teach them about the culture of betrayal amongst black men so they can watch out for this shit when they become grown men and become leaders in the future. And similar to Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara also became a target for elimination due to many of his economic and political policies as well. Mainly, his unequivocal stance when it came to the economic independence of not only Burkina Faso, but the African continent in general, right? His refusal to accept debt from the Western colonial powers. The nationalization of resources especially. Now, when you start nationalizing the resources, that's when the big money multinational corporations start talking about, nigga, we gotta kill the black man. You know what I'm saying? Yo, when you start talking about, nigga, we nationalizing this shit, nigga, the big multinational corporations like, nigga, we gotta eliminate the black man. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. When you start preaching the doctrine of self-sufficiency and independence and local domestic production, man, I'm telling you, bro, shit gonna get real dangerous for you. I'm telling you. Now let's continue. Next up on the list, we got the big dog, big general, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, you know what I'm saying? Big dog. Shout out to the big dog, you know, real general, real boss, you know what I'm saying? Real gangster. Now let's continue. The conspiracy involved the majority of Dessalines' senior officers, including his Minister of War in the Navy, Etienne Gérin, General Alexander Pétion, and Commander-in-Chief of the 2nd Division in the West, General Nicolas Geffroy, and many others. Now, I just want to say every single man that I just mentioned on this list, Etienne Gérin, Minister of War in the Navy, he had a white father. Alexander Pétion had a white father. General Nicolas Geffroy, he had a white father. I just got to put that out there. Now let's continue. In 1805, General Nicolas Geffroy, commander in the South, approached Christophe with a plot to kill Dessalines, the self-proclaimed Emperor of Haiti. Christophe did not warn Dessalines. Christophe's influence and power in the North was such that Dessalines, though aware of opposition brewing against him in the highest circles of power, found himself unable to strike against his general. Now, the one stain that will always remain on Christophe's legacy, even I gotta admit that, because Christophe, like I said, my favorite black man of all time. You know what I'm saying? Favorite black man of all time. One of the greatest black men to ever walk the face of the earth. But one stain on his legacy was he could have easily intervened. He could have easily stepped in the way and saved Dessalines' life just by telling Dessalines, don't go to Port-au-Prince, bro. Don't go to Port-au-Prince, bro. I just got a letter last week from General Nicolas Geffroy. He told me they plotting on you down south, bro. Don't go down south. Don't go down south. If you go down south, they gonna kill you, big bro. I'm telling you. Take my word for it. They gonna kill you. But Christophe, he did not warn Dessalines. He did not warn Dessalines of the opposition rising against him. And the reason why Christophe did not warn Dessalines of the opposition rising against him was because Christophe was a general of a port city. He was a commander of a port city. And all of the conspirators in the plot against Dessalines, they were commanders of port cities. Nicolas Geffroy, he commanded the port down south. Christophe commanded the port up north. Pétion had them ports on the west. And Dessalines' economic policies in his administration, it placed a limit on the amount of freedom that those men used to enjoy. Dessalines raised taxes. He installed a socialist type of government where everything was under control of the state. Everything was placed under the direct oversight of the state. And going back to what I mentioned earlier about the majority of the conspirators in the plot against Dessalines, they were men who had white fathers. They were mixed race men who had paternal lineages that went back to Europe. And due to the fact that many of these men were raised in France, they lived in France, they were raised by Frenchmen, they had the mentality of a Frenchman. They did not want to be under the governance of a black man. They did not want to be under the leadership of a black man. So that also was an added element to it, because this gentleman I got up on the screen, General Alexander Pétion, the mastermind behind the assassination, not only did he refuse to be under the leadership of a black man, when Dessalines offered his daughter to Alexander Pétion in marriage, Alexander Pétion rejected the offer. He rejected the offer because he didn't even want to be in the same family as a black man. Shit was crazy, bro. But overall, that was the main reason behind Dessalines' assassination. Dessalines' assassination occurred for two reasons. Number one, the mulatto generals such as Alexander Pétion, Etienne Gérin, Nicolas Geffroy, they did not want to be under the leadership of a black man. Nah, hell nah. And number two, Dessalines' economic policies, where everything was under the control and oversight of the state. It went against the economic interests of the generals who commanded the port cities. Because when you are somebody who controls a port city, like for example, Christophe controlled the port city of what is now known today as Cap-Haïtien, which was equivalent to New York at the time in terms of its commercial activity. And when you are in control of a port city, you control the trade and customs revenue, okay? Because the port city is the center of trade, domestically and internationally. And Christophe was commander of the northern port city since the days of Toussaint Louverture. In fact, it was Toussaint Louverture himself who appointed Christophe as the commander of the port city. So since his early 30s, since a young man, he was enjoying having full control of the northern port city of Cap-Haïtien. And the same goes for the other commanders who control the other port cities in the west, in the south, etc., etc. Because when you control the port city, not only do you control the trade and the customs revenue, but you have control over all the goods that enter the country and leave the country. And on top of that, you end up making friendships and alliances with different politicians, different army commanders from different countries. You start forming your own network of alliances because due to the amount of traffic that comes in and out of the port city, you begin to make friendships with certain powerful people. So it came with a lot of benefits when you are in control of a port city, right? So when Dessalines became the head of state, and he limited the freedom and autonomy of the different regions, because during the days of Toussaint Louverture, he allowed the different regions of the colony to be autonomous, meaning that Christophe was the commander in the north, he controlled the north, he was the king of the north, right? Dessalines was the commander of the south, he controlled the south, etc., etc. When Dessalines came to power, he wanted to centralize the authority of the government. So now the men who were formerly in control of the port cities, who enjoyed having the freedom and autonomy to do whatever the fuck they wanted to do, Dessalines wanted to add some structure to that, and them niggas was like, nigga, what? Nigga fucking up my money. You know what I'm saying? Dessalines fucking up my money. So that was the main reason why Christophe did not warn Dessalines of his impending destruction when the mulattoes down south were plotting his assassination. Christophe could have easily stepped in and just said, listen, bro, don't go to Port-au-Prince. You know what I'm saying? Somebody told me they plotting against you, big bruh. Listen, just stay at the crib, man. Stay at the house. Stay at the house, man. But Christophe did not warn Dessalines, and Dessalines went down south to Port-au-Prince, and they blew him away. You know what I'm saying? They blew him away. They blew him away. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace to the big dog, the ancestor, Jean-Jacques Dessalines, man. Let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. The exact circumstances of Dessalines' death are uncertain. Some historians claim that he was killed at Pétion's house after a meeting to negotiate the power and the future of the young nation. Some reports say that he was arrested and was dealt a deadly blow to the head. Another report says that he was ambushed and killed at first fire. And to be honest, man, the environment after the Haitian Revolution was just extremely volatile. It was an extremely volatile landscape to navigate, man. I mean, Dessalines, gangster. You know, Christophe, gangster. You know, even Alexander Pétion, I don't fuck with him. You know, I got my disagreements with him, but gangster. You know what I'm saying? Nicolas Geoffroy, gangster. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was just a top flight 5-star gangster. So, you know, it no surprise, like, nigga, you fucking up the money, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like, just that shit, that's how that shit go. You know, that's how that shit go, man. You fucking up the money, them niggas like, bro, I gotta kill you. You know, I gotta kill you, big bro, I gotta kill you. You know, unfortunately, man, the culture of betrayal amongst black men. The culture of betrayal amongst black men. But Christophe definitely redeemed himself, you know, because when Christophe came to power, I mean, the country skyrocketed to a level of success that we have never seen since. Built the palace, built the citadel, built all type of academies, built schools, you know, established the navy, you know, built up the military, strengthened the military, bro, rescued hundreds of Africans off them slave ships, man, killed the French ambassador and the French government didn't do shit about it, man. You know, Christophe definitely got to stay on his legacy because he could have intervened and stepped in to avoid the assassination of Dessalines. But man, he definitely redeemed himself when he came to power, man. But ultimately, it still adds to the chapter of the culture of betrayal amongst black men. The culture of betrayal amongst black men. You know what I'm saying? Because I could understand the mulattoes because, like I said, they had white fathers. You know, they had white fathers, so their allegiance was split between two different nations. But Christophe, come on, man. That was your brother. You know what I'm saying? That was your brother. You know, that was your brother, man. You know what I'm saying? Shit, man. But anyway, let's continue. Next up on the list, we got Charlemagne Masséna Peyrat, was a Haitian nationalist leader who opposed the United States occupation of Haiti in 1915. Leading guerrilla fighters called the Cacos, he posed such a challenge to the U.S. forces in Haiti that the occupying forces had to upgrade their presence in the country. He was eventually killed by American troops. An officer by career, Charlemagne Peyrat was the military chief of the city of Léogâne when the United States Marines invaded in July 1915. Refusing to surrender to foreign troops without fighting, Peyrat resigned from his position and returned to his native town of Hinche to take care of his family's land. In 1917, he was arrested for a botched raid on the Hinche gendarmerie payroll and was sentenced to 5 years of forced labor. Escaping his captivity, Charlemagne Peyrat gathered a group of nationalist rebels and started guerrilla warfare against the U.S. troops. Peyrat was born on the 10th of October 1886 in the city of Hinche. His father was General Remy Masséna Peyrat. His sister was the second wife of President of Haiti, Auguste Zamor. After 2 years of guerrilla warfare, leading Peyrat to declare a provisional government in the north of Haiti, where Christophe used to be the king, Charlemagne Peyrat was betrayed by one of his officers, Jean-Baptiste Conze, who led disguised U.S. Marine Sergeant Herman Hannikin, later meritoriously promoted to second lieutenant for his exploits, and Corporal William Button, into the rebel camp near Grand-Rivière du Nord. Peyrat was shot in the heart at close range. Hannikin and his men then fled with Peyrat's body strapped onto a mule. And as you can see, this picture on the top taken by the U.S. Marines after they killed the black man. You know what I mean? The black man who got betrayed by the black man. Like I said before, the culture of betrayal amongst black men. The culture of betrayal amongst black men. You know, man, that's why it's crazy when they say certain leaders are dictators, but you kind of got to be a dictator when you're a black man who's a leader. You kind of got to be on some authoritarian type of shit because you got enemies coming in from all sides, bro. You got enemies, domestic, international, black, white. You know what I'm saying? You don't know where they coming from, inside, outside the house. You know, that's the reality of being a black leader for real, especially if you're a black leader who is down for your people, who's riding for your people. Yeah, because if you a sellout, you don't got shit to worry about. If you are a sellout, you don't got nothing to worry about. But if you are a black man with integrity, honor, dignity, and a vision for your people, nigga, you better be careful. You better be careful. You better have eyes behind the back of your head. You better have eyes on the back of your head. You better sleep with a handgun under your pillow, with a motherfucking shotgun under the bed, with a motherfucking AK-47 in the closet. You better be strapped, and you better have intelligence on every single inch of the national territory. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. You know, big up to Patrice Lumumba, anniversary of the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, honor and praise and veneration, admiration and respect to the ancestor. Big up to Captain Ibrahim Traore, you know what I mean? He done dodged his 30-second coup d'etat. You know what I'm saying? He done avoided his 67th coup d'etat. They trying to get my boy out of here, but he's still standing tall. He's still the head of state inside the presidential palace. Fuck the haters, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari Desaline back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in that ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Paying for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This shit is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.